Okay, in this video, I'm going to end up showing the boss design and the different animations for it. So I have animation set up for when the dragon gets hit, when the dragon's dying. This was adjusted, creating the dragon animation for lunging. It's now actually a force push to push the player away. And since I'm not using the Revolute joints and doing it programmatically, but doing it with animations. And then I already showed the fire animation asset for the dragon. Um, so I have animations for the dragon to prepare to attack and then to attack. So I use GIMP to create all of those, and I actually designed them a little bit differently, creating a lot of layers using GIMP. Which did make it a little bit faster. I'm going to end up showing the students how to do that. I think it worked out much better, and I could make smoother animations. My focus on the dragon was having a lot smoother animations, but for this one I had to have a number of states that weren't part of like the normal animation, because he doesn't have really a direction for the state. He just has a like the state that he's in. So if he's in an idle state or preparing to attack state. So let me get to the enemy system. All right, let's make this bigger. Okay, so when this is my enemy system, so I'm creating them using Entity Manager and setting all the textures and the animations. Basically the same as how I've done other stuff, but what I'm doing first is, and I noticed that I had a couple issues with my enemy system where enemies weren't dying right away. That's because they were getting stuck in these switch statements without first checking if the enemy was dead in the first place. So that's why it was ended up delaying it. So I moved that all the way up to the top. So then when it's checking if it's the dragon, then it's checking. This is kind of like my intermediate state where when the dragon's almost dead, he actually will fire faster. So right now it's like every second, and then when he's down to 45 for his health from 120, then he changes the shoot animation and he starts force pushing at a greater distance away from him. So he starts off in the idle state. That's how I have it set up for the Entity Manager. He will change basically when the player is within 10 units, so it's about the size of the room that the dragon would be in, and then I am putting him in that state and checking if he's roar. That's where I do the animation for it, and then I'm giving him a little bit of a delay before he comes in and actually starts walking in. The entering is where he's actually walking. I have him walking to a location a little bit in the screen, and then I am checking if I have reached that location. Then I can go to my pause state, and then I set the linear dampening so that he's not continually trying to move a little bit. In the pause state, this is really the state that happens right after an attack. This is where it kind of charges up and gives the player the opportunity to do some attacks. So I'm adjusting his aggressiveness here. I'm doing the particle effects for the smoke to let the player know that this is a time that he could attack. This is that intermediate state that I was talking about. If the distance is less than 4 instead of less than 3, and his health is less than 45, then he's going to be more aggressive on doing the force pushes. Otherwise, distance less than 3, he's going to be doing a force push. And then I can set up for being able to do shots. So I don't go into preparing to do an attack unless the player is greater than 5, or the aggressiveness is high enough, then he's going to do an attack. So the prepare to attack is really where he's kind of pulling his head in and getting ready to shoot a fireball. But it's still going to end up switching to the force push if the player ends up getting too close. And if the aggressiveness gets high enough, then he's going to actually go through the animations much faster, so the timing of the attacks will change as well. And then he does his attack. And again, if the player is close enough, he's going to end up doing a force push and then go back to the attack. He'll go back to the pause and then immediately go back to the attack. And then here is where I'm getting the position of the player, and then I am adjusting so it's shooting from his mouth. And then I am getting the velocities for what I need that projectile to fire at, and then calling the create projectile, giving it a name. And I showed that when I was showing the particle effects. So this is where I do it, and then I can reset the state back to the pause state so that the player can go ahead and do the attack. Let me go ahead and show that. And then I have hit. So if his health is getting really low, then he loses aggressiveness faster. Otherwise, when he gets hit, it actually makes him angrier, so it's going to change those animations. And this will probably be adjusted a little bit. Again, I'm still looking for the force push so the player can't just stay close if he got close enough to do the attack. And force push, what I'm doing is I'm changing the linear dampening of the player because I am applying an impulse to the player from the dragon and subtracting the player's position, so it's going to move him away. And then I had to change the dampening because he would actually go into a different screen. So, and then I rechanged the linear dampening. And then once that's finished, that's when I can switch to the pause. So you'll see all the animations. I'm going to attack so that I can hit and kill him. And you'll be able to hear the sound effects for that. That's the force push. I can't get too close. What's that? It really helps if I use the stronger sword. Okay, so that was him dying. That's it. That was all the states.